All right, it's 12 noon. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for part two of Data in Action, a Lunch and Learn series. I'm Leisha with Cajun Navy Relief. We've partnered with the U.S. Census Bureau to bring you this series. And at this time, I'll hand the floor over to Christina Bowe from the Office of Strategic Alliances to introduce our speakers for today.
Thank you, Leisha. Hi, I'm Christina Bowe, and I'm with the U.S. Census Bureau's Office of Strategic Alliances. Our office is responsible for managing national partnerships with organizations like Cajun Navy Relief to just connect people and organizations to the important data and statistics and our data tools that Census Bureau has to offer. We're so excited for you to join us. If you didn't catch the first session on Tuesday, it was recorded and we'll be able to send it to you. And this one is also being recorded and we can send out the link after this series is over. One thing I want to just say is a big takeaway from this series is I hope you see the value and impact that census data brings to organizations and to people. And I hope you're able to use it in your volunteer efforts during a Cajun Navy deployment. And without further ado, I'll introduce our speakers. First, we have Erlene Dowell. She is a supervisory program analyst with over 16 years of experience at the Census Bureau. And then Adam Grundy, who joined us on Tuesday, is speaking again, and he is an outreach specialist with also over 16 years experience at the census. All right, Arlene, I'll give it away to you.
Thank you, Christina. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming Adam and I to share census data tools that can be used in emergency planning during a disaster response. As Christina mentioned, my name is Erlene, and I've been lucky enough to have been at the Census Bureau since 2010. Initially, I served a short stint in the Public Information Office as a media specialist during the 2010 decennial. Since then, I've been training and promoting the longitudinal employer household dynamics or LEHD products. Hopefully you are here on Tuesday to meet my colleague, Adam Grundy. Adam has also been with the census for over 16 years, as well as a graduate from St. Mary's College of Maryland. LEHD products are different from other census data in the fact that our data comes from our Local Employment Dynamics or LED partnership, which is a voluntary federal-state partnership. The LEHD program houses the LEHD products. Since the 1990s, the program has explored the interactions between workers and firms by linking employer and household data. Under the partnership, states share administrative data, which include their unemployment insurance or UI wage records, and their quarterly census of employment and wages or QCEW data, which is then combined with censuses and surveys to create this dynamic information on workers to produce public use data products as well as microdata for research. The UI records give us job data, the QCEW gives us firm data, and our person data comes from censuses and surveys. The map to the right shows our active state partners in blue. LEHD has 3 main data sets and 2 experimental data sets that provide detailed information about workers, jobs, and local economies. The quarterly workforce indicators, job-to-job flows, and the LEHD origin-destination employment statistics. Each serves different purposes, including analyzing employment, trends, worker mobility, earnings, and commuting patterns. These data sets are available through user-friendly tools. On the Map for Emergency Management is a sister of On the Map, but you will also find the American Community Survey and the 2020 Decennial Dataset in this data tool in order to analyze potential impact on jobs and workforce during a natural disaster. And I'll mention our 2 experimental data sets, the PSEO and the VEO, which looks at earnings after graduation and military separation. Finally, we have the LED extraction tool. This data tool provides easy access to the raw data products, to the QWI, J2J, and loads dataset. In addition to the data tools, raw data downloads are available along with LEHD microdata for approved projects through our secure census research data centers. Today, I will be introducing 2 of the 7 data tools used for emergency management planning, beginning with the On the Map for emergency management. Developed in 2010, this data tool is the only tool within LEHD's suite of tools that tells us population data from the ACS and 2020 decennial. On the Map for Emergency Management provides an intuitive web-based interface for accessing U.S. population and workforce statistics in real time for areas affected by natural disasters. The tool allows users to retrieve reports containing detailed workforce population and housing characteristics for hurricanes, floods, winter storms from the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, wildfires from the Department of Interior and Department of Agriculture, and federal disaster declaration areas from FEMA. It also has comprehensive reports. It's easy to use. Users can look at it at historical events and flexible analyses and visualizations. Then we will look at On the Map and utilize the custom map feature when planning for preparations for responses of natural disasters. This tool allows us to analyze workforce in a selected area, workforce flows, and commuting patterns. On the Map is a web-based mapping and reporting application that shows where workers work and where they live, and it provides companion reports on age, earnings, industry, distribution, race, ethnicity, educational attainment, and sex. We have data from 2002 through 2023 and most of the 50 states, including DC. You can customize the selection area as low as the census block with disclosure protection. And input-output reports are available, which means you can import and export shapefiles and download and print reports and maps. Let's begin with On the Map for emergency management, looking at DR 4879 or Texas severe storm straight line winds and flooding, also known as the Central Texas floods. The map is highlighting population 18 years and over for whom poverty is determined with a disability. The areas in the darkest blue have a higher population of those with disabilities. We can also look at specifically at Kerrville, Texas, using the custom flood impact areas in the On the Map for emergency management. First responders can estimate the number of residents living in the flood-prone area and vulnerable populations such as mobile home residents, elderly populations, people with disabilities, and households without vehicles, to name a few. Here we can see that the total population in the city of Kerrville is 22,815. Within Kerrville, there are 11,650 housing units, and out of those housing units, 718 are mobile homes. Mobile homes is just one of the many characteristics. Let's go live. All right, so the easiest way to get to us is if you type in lehd.ces.census.gov, or you can always Google On the Map for emergency management, and that'll pull it up as well. So once I am here, I'm going to go to the left-hand side where it says applications, and it has all of our different applications. And you can also go to the tab where it says applications and click on that. That gives you a description of all of the different applications that LEHD does have. So I'll just scroll a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and just click on the Map for emergency management on the left-hand side. And once we're there, you can see all of the different real-time events that are happening right now. So the red flames are the wildfires, the yellow houses are the floods, and then the orange life preservers are the FEMA disaster declaration areas. On the right-hand side, you can also see the legends. So the green area, if there were a hurricane, which hurricane season just started June 1st, but it would show the green wind swath. And then, like I said earlier, the wildfires are the red flames, the yellow houses, and then so on. You can actually unclick the areas and just look at specific areas or events that you want to look at. And then also on the left-hand side is all of the current events happening. So if I just kind of scroll down, you can see. But right now we have Tropical Storm Amanda that's forming somewhere on this map. And also you can search. So you can click on the filter and decide if you want to just look at wildfires or floods. But I'm just going to type in that DR number. So it was DR, and I think it was 4876. Yep, 4879, sorry. 4879. And then a box comes up and it tells me what the selected area is and then what the population is. So I'll click on that and then we zoom into the map and then it highlights, right now we're highlighting the population in household total. So the darker the area, the more houses are in that area or the more population. On the left-hand side, you can scroll down and see all of the different characteristics. So if I clicked on disability status by age, and then I can click on with a disability, the map updates, and now we're just looking at civilian population 18 years and over for whom poverty status is determined with a disability. So if you know your area, you can tell that in this area, it looks like that and it looks like Austin has the most population in that number. And then we can also scroll down and we can look at the year the structure was built. And then when we're looking at this, it seems like between 2010 and 2019 had the most homes built, looking at 265,712. And then we can look at the house heating fuel. So when we're looking at those that might not have electricity, we can see that 627,368 people might be impacted with no electricity. And then we can look at the mobile homes as we looked at in the PowerPoint. And then for this, it's 53,156. So this is the whole impacted area. And then finally, we can look at this last one, which is vehicles. So, it's important to know if you don't have a vehicle, evacuating would be difficult. So we can see that over 51,573 people are without a vehicle. But this is just in the whole impacted area. If you wanted to, you can click on this blue event area. And then where it says geography type, I can change it to places. And then I can type in Kerr or even just KE. And then I can click on Kerrville City and I'll click on select. And now everything updates to just Kerrville City. And we can see that the population now is 22,815. And then as I showed you in the PowerPoint, we are looking at 718 mobile homes. So that's just examples of how this data tool works. You can export the shape files or the KML and the CSVs, and then you can share the unique URL with somebody or post it on social media, whatever you'd like. All right, going back to the PowerPoint. Now, another resource is the On the Map custom selection tool. So in this example, I imported shapefiles of Guadalupe River, and then I did a mile buffer around the river. The table to the right shows that there are 22,955 workers that live in that area. The darker blue, once again, shows the more populated areas. So let's go live to recreate this one. So I will go back to the LEHD tab, and then I'll click on the map. And you can see on the left-hand side that I've already done some work with some different geographies, but just to show you how this works, I'll go ahead and click on import shapefiles. But you can also type in the area as well, but I'll import the shapefiles and I'll choose. And then I know it's this one. and then we'll import it. So once there, I'll just zoom to the imported files. And then I will just kind of click on this area. Oops. So I'm just clicking on the river. Crazy river. You could also just draw a line down the river instead of importing shape files. Let me just make sure I get this. Hope it doesn't take it all off. Okay, so then I'm gonna continue with the selected features. And that takes me to our selection tab. And once I'm here, I'm gonna scroll down to where it says add buffer. So I'll click on simple ring, put in a mile. And then once I do that, up here at the top, it'll be bold, it'll be green. I'll have a green check mark that'll tell me that I'm allowed to do this. So once I do that, there's a buffer around it. A pop-up comes up. It tells me how many square miles, how many census blocks. And then you would click on the blue underline perform analysis on selection area. And then once there's this analysis setting. So I was looking at the home area. So this tells us you can look at where the worker works or where the worker lives. This is just basically the workforce. You can look at an overview of the area, and I'm just going to keep it at that. You can look and compare race, ethnicity, education, earnings. You can look at what regions people are coming to live in that area or work in that area. Same with the destination. And then I'll show you the inflow outflow in our next area. So I'll go ahead and click on all jobs. All jobs means every single job out there. If you have more than one job, that's where it would be. So once I do that, the map updates, and then just like the PowerPoint, we have 22,955. And then in the map, it shows the darker areas are the more populated, and then the circles are the jobs per census block. So if I just kind of click off this point overlay, it kind of gives you an idea of, where everything is, where the most impacted areas are. And then we can also scroll down and see what the earnings and the industries, and the top industry being manufacturing, followed by healthcare, and then it was, I think, retail. But the other cool thing you can do is like if I clicked on manufacturing, the map also updates. So now we're just looking at manufacturing workers that live in the area. So if you know the area, if we were looking at the workforce population, not where they live, but you would know the areas that are strongly in manufacturing. Okay, so one more thing. Going back to the PowerPoint. Oh, I lied. There's more than one more thing. So jumping back to on the map for emergency management. On August 26, 2021, the National Hurricane Center began issuing advisories on Tropical Storm Ida. This is a map showing Ida's cone of uncertainty and the estimated predicted impact of the storm. On August 29th, Hurricane Ida would make landfall near Louisiana as a Category 4 hurricane with an estimated impact on more than 58 million family households. However, in the long run, when Hurricane Ida actually made landfall, the impacted number of family households dropped to 3,649,184. So let's go live to look at this cone of uncertainty and the actual impact of Hurricane Ida. All right, back to on the map for emergency management. And we can type in Hurricane Ida. and then it automatically comes up. So I'll click on Hurricane Ida. It zooms into the impacted area. But then you can click on the event class and we can look at the forecast area of uncertainty. So this would have kind of given you a prediction of what was to come. Which would have been a lot. And there we go. So that was what was predicted, but luckily it ended up just being, not that any hurricane is, less than, but it ended up just being in this area versus the forecasted area. And then just to finish off, this is focusing on Hurricane Ida. And then we can see on the map and look at the daytime population. So here, using the inflow-outflow analysis, we can see that 6,671 workers travel into the area to work, 4,219 live and work in the area, and 14,099 live in the area but travel out of the area to work. So this is looking at St. Bernard. So we'll look at that one more time. And we'll go to on the map. I'm going to type in St. Bernard. Once that happens, every geography that has the word St. Bernard comes up. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on under counties, St. Bernard Parish, Louisiana. Again, the pop-up comes up, tells me how many square miles, how many census blocks. I'll click on the blue area. And then instead of going through the other parts, I'll click on inflow, outflow, and then I'm going to click on primary jobs because primary jobs is the jobs that bring home the most income. So I'll click on go. And again, here is the same thing about how many people are going into the area to work, how many people live and work within the area, and how many people are traveling out of the area to work. So that's kind of important when you're looking at evacuation routes and how many people we need to get out of that little island area. So with that, here are some links to the guides to using some of these data tools. I also added a link to our new training page, and now I'm going to pass it over to Adam.
Thank you very much, Arlene, for that great presentation. My name is Adam Grundy. I'm an outreach specialist in the Data User and Trade Outreach branch and part of the Economic Directorate. And what I'm going to be guiding us through today is our disasters page. So if you want to go to census.gov/disasters, that is going to be the main part of what I'm going to be looking at. So I'm going to go there in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to kind of explain what you're going to see on that page when you get there. First of all, we'll have the My Community Explorer data tool that's just available there. We'll also see other data tools such as, let me move this down, on the map for emergency management that Arlene already talked about today, Census Business Builder, which I talked about on Tuesday, which can be used for emergency preparedness ideas and research and stuff like that. There's also a Census Business Builder report quick lookup, and then community resilience estimates is also on the page. Let me go there quickly. We go into Alt 10. Here we go. Oh, there we go. All right. So I'm going to go first to census.gov. From there, I'm going to go to topics, and emergency management disasters is on the middle of your screen. That takes us to the disasters page, or census.gov/topics and preparedness. So as I scroll down, I can see an example of My Community Explorer, all the different data tools and stuff like that there. You can also see different emergencies by the event type. So whether or not we're looking at wildfires, floods, hurricanes, or even other events like the Baltimore Bridge collapse, which had an impact on the economy and also the commuting patterns for people around the Baltimore area. We have all those different types of things you can track on that preparedness page. We also see recent events that were put in there, and then you can also search the data as well. So if I go back to the presentation, I will go back and explain all the different parts of this. So you saw some examples of the emergencies event by event type, and keeping with our case study for today of the floods in Kerrville, Texas, which is a city in Kerr County, Texas, which occurred on July 4th, 2025. You can see an example of what this looks like when you look at data tools like data.census.gov, which gives you a basic outline of what the city boundaries look like for this one, the total population, median household income, and more. This one takes a look at the same geographic area, but again, this one talks about the large number of the aging population, or age 65 years and older. So you can see some of those categories for both male and female are pretty large, from 65 to 69, 70 to 74, and beyond 80 to 84 years. So what does that mean? It tells us a little bit more about the aging population and potentially who would be vulnerable during a disaster if they don't have access to a vehicle, access to broadband internet, and things like that in order to get their information. Okay. Sticking with data.census.gov first before I go into My Community Explorer, you can see the median household income is in Kerrville was 62,102, whereas compared to this whole state of Texas, it was 79,721. 11.5% of the Kerrville population is living in poverty, with the majority being 18 to 64 years old. And again, if you compare that to the people in Texas, you can see 13.4% is the state level of poverty. So slightly less than the state average for that one. All right, getting into community resilience estimates. These are some of the measures of social vulnerability or some types of risk factors that people would have the potentially we would want to know about in order to figure out whether or not the population is vulnerable to a disaster if it were to come. So these are the 10 different measures of social vulnerability that we have on there. We have income to poverty ratio, single or zero caregiver household, living with a disability or serious constraint of significant life activity for the individual, whether or not anybody in the household is employed full time, no health insurance coverage, age 65 years or older, no vehicle access, or households with broadband internet access as well. So basically, if you had a population with 3 or more of these 10 categories, you would be considered high risk. Uh, Estimated population with 1 to 2 measures of social vulnerability will be considered moderate risk, and with no components to be considered low risk. The no prevalence just means there wasn't enough data available at that specific block level or geographic level that we have over there. When I go to live to My Community Explorer, you'll see a couple different things we can go to for Kerrville City, Texas. So Kerrville is located in the middle of your screen. It's in the middle of Kerr County. And what I did was I turned on the reference layers for the community resilience estimates. That's why you see the dashes in here as well. Other things you'll see on the dashboard when I go live is some of the different things in the legend tells about broadband internet access, subscriptions, the number of households that are available, the total population, and the population with 3 or more measures of social vulnerability, which is almost 26% in this particular geographic location. We also see different household characteristics and other things like that. The URL to get to My Community Explorer is right here at the bottom of your screen, and one of my colleagues is going to put that in the chat as well. Thank you for that. So thank you for putting the chat in the chat, Christina, the URL to get there so that people can follow along. We also see other things in there about when you zoom into a certain block level, you can see just how certain counties differ from their city counterparts. So in this example, for the screenshot that I collected here, we can see that Kerrville is mostly in yellow, which means moderate risk or components with 1 to 2 measures of social vulnerability. And then just to the left of it is a measures with 3 or more components of social vulnerability. And then just to the right of it as well, also has 3 or more as well. So it's different things you can look at when you dive into the data tool, which I'll go live in just a moment. Okay. And then now the live demo, this is what the My Community Explorer is going to look like just when you first get to it. So let me go to that page now. Okay, so I'm back at the disasters page. I'm going to click on View More to go to my Community Explorer. So what this data tool will tell you about is where the data is coming from. So it tells us we have the most recent data available from the non-employer statistics, which I talked about a little bit about on Tuesday, county business patterns 2023, and all the congressional districts as well. You can do the take a tour option if you wanted to just simulate the core functionality of the data tool, much like Census Business Builder would do. Or you could click on skip tour and go right to it. And just a quick note that we do have a My Community Explorer for Puerto Rico as well. So once I click on skip tour, it's going to first want me to select a geography. So I'm going to first start by selecting the state of Texas. And you can see the map is already starting to repopulate with the zoom feature on that. And now I'm going to select my county. Kerrville City is in Kerr County. And so if I scroll down to Kerr, you'll see a couple different things on the display once it populates. Okay, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. So if I look at Kerr County just at a glance, you can see that it seems to be doing okay with only 1 to 2 measures of social vulnerability at the county level. Okay, if I look over just to the left of it, the county over here, Edwards County, Texas, they have much more measures of social vulnerability than Kerr County in general. So basically, if I go back to Kerr here, this one allows us to go to a deep link into Census Business Builder, which is again the demo that I did on Tuesday. But we also have different things within My Community Explorer that might be important for you to consider for your data needs, whether or not a disaster were to strike in this area. So we have different things about measures of social vulnerability and how they're impacted. Whether or not they speak a different language could be a potential issue with getting the right communication out there to the different areas that are available here. And then we also have a second page to this. In Kerr County, Texas, you can see the amount of people in poverty, amount of people that have a broadband subscription to get the information that they're looking for. High school degrees are higher. Whether or not they speak English well. Again, the language barrier could be important for you to get the information that you need out there. And then we also have something called the Gini index. The closer it is to 0, the better it's doing. The closer you get to the 1, the more vulnerable that population would be. Okay. So if I scroll into Kerrville, again, remember at the county level, I see there's only 1 to 2 measures of social vulnerability on average for this one. But if I continue scrolling to Kerrville, I can see some of the measures of social vulnerability at the block level. Okay. Now there are different reference layers I can put on here. One that's turned on right now is emergency preparedness layers. We also have tribal area boundaries. Congressional districts. So just as an example, if I want to turn those on, I just click on the little I button. You can see it's in District 21 for this one here. And if I measure that would be the boundaries for District 21. And if I put the measures of social vulnerability back on, we also have different reference layers on there for educational attainment. So again, if I was looking for a population below poverty and I turn that reference layer on, the map will quickly change at that period of time as well. Okay. Other things we can kind of see going on this chart is the population 65 and older. I can turn that reference layer on as well or off, the Gini index as well and off. And then different community resilience estimates. Other things I can do on the chart itself is by looking at some of the different base maps. So this may or may not be important for your needs, but if you want to look at some of the different imagery for like navigation, to see some of the major routes that would take place in that particular geography, you can turn those different base maps on in order to get some of the roads in there as well. So if I go to topographic, oh, let me turn off some of the reference layers here to get back to that. Turn off that. So I probably had too many on. There we go. All right. So now you can kind of see the roads and the route numbers on here as well. If I want to change that to some of the different ones, such as navigation places, you can get some different examples about what is going on around the city of Kerrville, Texas. Other things I can see when I dive into this data tool at the different census tracts or block level is an economic profile. So again, when you look at oh, I got to select my county. So somehow Kerr County got disappeared for a second. If I go to this, you'll see some of that data just comes back into focus. So we have the income to poverty ratio from the economic profile. Tells you on the map what you're looking at for the level of geography, households with income less than 75,000, and so forth. Other social characteristics we can see is English, how many people speak English at home, languages spoken at home, primarily is Spanish, with for other languages that are available in that particular geography. We also have race and ethnicity data that comes from our American Community Survey. Allows us to take a look at the demographics of the population in this particular area as well. And then the last part is our business profile. This comes from data from County Business Patterns Program, as well as non-employer statistics. County Business Patterns allows us to look at data at the establishment level, basically businesses with paid employees, and non-employers are all the people that have no paid employees. They were the self-proprietors out there, and they help contribute to the gig economy. Okay. So that's a basic example of how you can use some of the data within My Community Explorer. And again, if you go back to the interactive map, you can dive into some of the different categories we have over here on the legend. It always is very helpful to take a look at all the different reference layers that are available in the legend to let you know exactly what you are looking at in this particular example. All right, so I'm going to go back to this and make sure we leave time for questions. So we can see if anything else came in through the chat, Christina, and Arlene and I can happily address anything that may have came in now.
Thank you, Adam. If y'all have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or type it in the chat and we'll get to it.
Mm-hmm.
From Casper, how quickly do real-time events get transferred over to archived events?
In My Community Explorer, they happen in real time. Basically, the disasters, wildfires, things like that. We track that data directly from NOAA and FEMA alerts and things like that. In data tools like Census Business Builder, we have to go through different examples of when the data is most recently available for that. So the natural disasters won't come up in Census Business Builder, but in My Community Explorer, they do happen in nearly real time. And then Arlene, you want to speak on?
Same for on the map for emergency management. It's actually updated every 6 hours from NOAA and from all the other weather services. But then the archive just keeps rolling. It doesn't, we don't actually put it in, it just keeps rolling.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question. That was a great question.
I just want to say it's Soretta. Hey y'all. I'm also
Soretta.
I just want to first of all thank y'all for all the information that y'all provided. This information today, I feel is like very useful. Probably the most like we can probably gain the most information from with what we do, I guess, from what y'all presented today. I'm super excited about kind of getting into it, and getting our hands dirty, I guess, with it, to getting the data, digging the data and figure things out. So, I mean, our lack of questions isn't because, we're just still trying to kind of digest everything, but y'all presented it very, simple enough for us to understand. I guess people that don't have a lot of computer savvy or anything else, it seems to be pretty straightforward. And I appreciate that y'all provided all the links and everything as well. it's very
Thank you.
it's presented in a very usable way for anyone, it seems. So thank
Yeah.
y'all so much for all of y'all.
And we have our contact information up here
Yeah.
for a reason. If
If
there's
you
any,
need us.
if you have any data questions as you dive into it or need any individualized training, feel free to reach out.
Sure, sure. Well, I can see
Yeah,
another.
I was gonna say that if like a deployment comes up at any time and a
Mhm.
team needs help accessing this information, navigating the platforms or the data tools, um, I have left my contact in the chat, and you can take down Arlene Adams. Monica's from Tuesday, and contact any of us, and we'll be happy to help you.
I also wanted to say thank you to her as well, Miss Monica and Adam and Miss Erlene and also Christina. I mean, we've been like I said from Tuesday, we've been trying to get this going for a minute. We've been had a lot of communications through telephone and whatnot and email and stuff to get this off the ground. And I appreciate y'all coming with us, coming reaching out, I guess, to get us involved and invited to the meeting. So appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Yeah, and these are
Thank
just a
you.
couple different examples that we went through this week. There's definitely more you can dive into for different geographic locations or whatever your data needs may be. We're here to help.
And thanks for having us. So.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess since there's no more questions, Leisha, you can stop the recording and we'll let everybody go a little bit earlier.
I guess if